Hello, everyone. Thanks for popping on today's webinar. My name is Ryan. I work here at Crow Canyon, obviously. We're going to be talking about our project management application today for SharePoint on-premise and SharePoint online. We're going to give people a few minutes to kind of filter in before we hop into it. Yeah, I'm not going to, I hope everyone's doing okay, in quarantine, if you're still in quarantine or shelter in place or anything along those lines. Just as a heads up, I do have a bulldog puppy roaming around here somewhere. So if you hear a little yip in the background, I apologize in advance. She does get excited when she sees Dad with his headsets on. So if that happens, again, apologies in advance. But hopefully she's found a nice quiet place to sleep. Yeah. So sorry. So yeah, we'll give people another 60 seconds here to pop on, and then I'll hop into the demo. We're gonna try to keep today's call around 30 minutes. Do a quick overview of the applications, our company as a whole, and then do the product demo itself. So I think with that being said, I haven't seen the attendees list jump too high, so I think let's pop into it. Again, for those who missed the original intro, my name's Ryan. I work here at Crow Canyon. We're going to be talking about managing projects today in Office 365 or SharePoint on-premise with one of our Crow Canyon applications. So kind of the spiel, like the lead in, how the tools are architected is it's kind of cool, and I like to touch on it first before we jump into the actual product. So the idea is this: it's like you're paying for SharePoint, you're paying for Office 365, and we want to give you the ability to take full advantage of that platform. So what we have, it's kind of like not two different sides of our businesses, but the two different aspects of where we excel, and they kind of come together in our business applications. So we have these templated out-of-the-box SharePoint tools, right? We have a bunch of different applications, project manager being one, IT help desk, asset tracking, onboarding, a bevy of other applications that we offer. Feel free to check those out on our website if you're interested. The other side is this set of tools that we call the Nitro Studio. Now, Nitro Studio in its base form is intended to be an info path replacement, right? So for those familiar with older iterations of SharePoint on-premise or even online, you're familiar with InfoPath. Microsoft's doing away with InfoPath and insert Nitro Studio. That's our intention there, was to have it be a InfoPath replacement. I actually think we have a webinar coming up on InfoPath replacement with Nitro Studio. So if you're interested, I suggest checking that out. I'll show you guys the dates and times of that after our webinar here. But you have these templated business applications, i.e. project management. You have this Nitro Studio. Now, the nice thing about this is that in our applications, you get Nitro Studio. So yeah, I'm gonna show you pre-configured forms, pre-configured workflows, pre-configured dashboards, reports that all come with this out-of-the-box application. But the idea is that, hey, Nitro Studio is gonna be included in the tool set. So you're gonna have the ability to take ownership of the application after it's installed in your environment, right? And that's so two big things there, again, I wanna highlight. In your environment, right? So it's not third-party servers. It's not a SaaS-based solution where you're logging into my environment with the password and email and password I give you, right? It's all self-contained with either in your 365 or on-premise world. The second being complete control, 100% customization, right? Is the easiest way to say it, I think. So the tools are not only the forms, but like I said, workflows, list views, list search, kind of everything that we use to build our application with is in the Nitro Studio framework, and it is included in the cost. So the idea being like, hey, this template's going to work a certain way, this application is going to work a certain way, and then you have if you want to, you have the ability to make it make sense for you. So that being said, I'm going to pop into the product demo. Just real quick, side note, our operations manager, James Restivo, is also on the call today answering questions. So if you have questions, feel free to shoot those over to him as we go. If it's something that while I'm on, we want to take a deeper dive into, James will stop me and we'll answer the question in real time. Okay, so project manager. Really, the project manager, how it operates is a series of like parent and child relationships between a set of lists. Being able to seamlessly create, items related to a project, either ad hoc or on a templated basis. And in our terminology, that is milestones and tasks. So from the top level, your project is going to be the parent item. Then you're going to have milestones related to your project, and then you're going to have tasks related to your milestones, which then obviously roll up into the project itself. So when I come in and create a new project, this is going to pull up a Nitro form, right? So this is what I was talking about from a configurability perspective. Yes, our forms come certainly out of the box, but these are 100% customizable. You can capture more information, create SharePoint columns, edit our existing columns, and give you the ability really to make this form your own. But it does give you kind of a launching point, right? A leg to stand on when it comes to getting this project, no pun intended, kicked off, right? This project tracker, this project management application started. So you can plug in information like project name, client if you're working with outside clients. Just say Brian's project, why not? And then the ability to select from a project template. So what's cool about this is if you have those project types that are recurring, right? Hey, we do, this server reset once a quarter, or this software upgrade once a year, and you can set it like clockwork, and it's going to have these 15 tasks associated with it, much like we utilize on our onboarding platform. And we have that same mindset. Okay, like, hey, this is something that we know is going to happen at this date and this time. Instead of having to come in and manually add in each task or each milestone, you have the ability to create that project template and automatically create those tasks and milestones instantaneously. And that's something that we leverage using our workflow tool. Project manager. I didn't really talk about this in the beginning, but I briefly talked about it, but I'll highlight a little bit more information here. We're leveraging SharePoint, right? So if you're on-prem, maybe you have SharePoint user profiles. If you're in Office 365, maybe it's synced up with Azure. Maybe you're in a hybrid environment, you're using Azure and on-prem or Active Directory or Office 365 profiles. The idea being you can populate the information in this project manager column from that AD account, right? So if I start typing in my admin account, it's going to find me and I can add myself to it. James is going to be the project manager in this case, and start typing in James's name, and I can add in James. So it just gives us the ability to, leverage that single sign-on. If you have multi-factor authentication already configured in maybe your Office 365 environment, again, it just goes back to that, highlighting the fact that we're giving you the best advantage to take, or the best option to take full advantage of your 365 or SharePoint environment, right? Might as well use what you already have in place. And this is just another example of how to extend those features that you already have. Start date and due date. Now, anytime you see a date column in a Crocanian field or form, Crocanian form, a date column field in a Crocanian form in any of our applications, there are options for notification workflows, send email actions to be associated with those columns. So if you want to notify people that, hey, this project's starting in today, let's for argument's sake, let's say tomorrow. Hey, Ryan, this project's starting tomorrow. And you want to send them an email with pertinent information. The cool thing about the Nitro Studio is that it gives you that ability to send emails related on these date columns, right? Hey, it's like a trigger on this, on this day at this time, send this email. And what's nice is that the email can be rich text, just whatever information that you want to pass along, but you can also map over SharePoint columns into the email by like a click or a drag and drop almost. Hey, let Ryan know that project A with client A is starting at this day, and these are the milestones and tasks associated with this particular project. Now, something else that, looks like I already created a project for myself. Oh, that's fun. Another option here you have for this project is, again, I go back to that original kind of conversation of multiple parent-child relationships within this tool. Just like milestones and tasks roll up to a project, you can also have multiple projects roll up into a project. So like have a master project related to sub projects. Again, like a huge thing, time saver, yes, right? Instead of having to remember or send emails about, hey, this project is related to this project and we need to connect the information or map it over or retype it in, just by having the projects list be selectable from a lookup column on the form, you have the ability to connect the projects together. And this, if it is a master project, it gives you all the sub projects related to that master project underneath it. Very cool. Now, milestones and tasks. So these will be automatically generated when I hit the submit button here in the bottom right hand corner, but I want to talk about this a little bit before I hit submit. So parent-child, I know, like a broken record, but hear me out. So the reason that we do this is we're actually taking advantage of it's kind of like repeating rows, I guess is the best way to say it in the old info path forms to an extent. The mindset here is though is why we break these up into separate lists is because it gives you the ability to capture content specific to that particular list type. So the milestone form, when I open this up, is going to be different than the project form. We can capture a whole new subset of information related to this particular milestone, different from the project. So instead of having to create this long scrolling project form with multiple tabs or multiple sections with a bunch of different conditions on them, maybe if milestone is 1, it shows these columns. If it's milestone 2, it shows these columns. If you break them up into separate lists and separate forms, not only can you control the load time, like the latency time, right? But you can also have more flexibility in the content you capture on the list item, as well as security permissions, right? Maybe you only want someone to have access to the milestone tasks, not the project level, right? By breaking them out into these separate lists, gives us that ability, gives us the flexibility to keep things permissioned to your requirements. I think that's something that kind of goes unstated in a lot of our conversations, but or a lot of our webinars, but it happens a lot in my calls. Most of the clients I talk to, most people that are on these demos with me, permissions is a big thing, right? Being able to control who sees what. Role-based permissions is a term that we use a lot here. What equals me? And again, by highlighting or by creating these different lists and having forms on different lists gives us the ability to have very stringent role-based permissions. Okay, so let's hit the submit button. Okay, so so we have our manual workflows, our automatic workflows, sorry, I should say, that create things on a timer basis, like I was talking about with the email notifications. But what we're leveraging here is something that we call custom actions, and this is basically firing off a workflow at a time of our choosing. I like this because it gives me, I don't know, call me crazy, but it gives me these warm fuzzies that, hey, it was done properly. Right, I feel like too often in our SharePoint space or maybe in other applications, you hit submit or you hit save and you're kind of left in limbo, like, what happened? Did that get created? Did I do that right? Leveraging our custom actions, it gives us this screen that pops up that just says, hey, everything was created successfully. Or maybe you don't have proper permissions to do this, but it gives you everything consumable from the screen, so you know that, hey, it was either fired off correctly or there was some sort of issue. So you're not left in waiting as to what's going on with this particular project. But this page is going to reload. We're going to have a new project created. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this dashboard. So this is leveraging a few different areas of Nitro Studio. And while I'm talking, I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to pull up our Nitro Studio interface. So again, based on proper permissions, if you're an admin, you're going to have access to the back end of the application, the admin center, right? For lack of a better term. So you can control the lists, you can change the lists. If you want to create more clients, like if you want to use the clients list at all or create more clients, you can build them in here. Departments for the project types, right? If you want to be able to have unique departments and build in budgets for those particular departments, you can absolutely do so, right? If IT has a budget and they have an available budget, the same can be said about all departments in the organization, right? You can detail out a budget for each department and then keep track of that total budget based on the projects that are currently running or completed. You can change your project types. So those templated project types, as well as those milestone templates and the task templates. So this is where that's controlled from a SharePoint perspective. This is where those list items are feeding from. But you also have access to our Nitro apps. So again, that tool set. And this Nitro interface, when this pops up, loading here, of course I'm on a webinar, so it takes an extra second. It's got to make me look bad. But whenever you go down the track of getting an application with Croak Canyon, I always suggest the Nitro training, because this really is the backbone of our applications. This is where a lot of the information lives, right? So Nitro forms, those forms that we showed, those workflows, the custom actions, the ones that created that project for us. But a lot goes into this, reports and AI services. So just briefly, I want to talk about this. before I got into the dashboards. That's why I took a sidestep. And then I'm going to go back to the dashboards, and then we'll come back to the Nitro interface. But if you want to create a project channel, if you want to notify a project team when a project is created, or have some sort of communication done through the Teams channel, if you're using Teams, if you're in the 365 space, we have these AI services or these bot services that can be included in the Nitro Studio. They take a little bit of time and effort to set up, but the idea is that you can notify like I said, that Teams channel, pass messages, update even items if need be. So if you're interested in this, we've done a few webinars recently around AI services, around bots. Our CEO, Scott Recibo, did them. If you want to know more, I would suggest reaching out to us independently to set up a time to talk about it, to do a personalized demo, to kind of scope that out, what it's going to look like. Super cool, very cutting edge. I say this a lot. I'm sure for those of you who heard me talk before, again, a bit of a broken record, but 5 years ago when I started in SharePoint, if someone told me that there was going to be AI services or bots inside of even online, I probably would have laughed at them. So SharePoint's come a long way, Office 365's come a long way, and Crocana's right at the leading edge of this bot integration in the 365 space. So if you want to interact with teams, if you want to have AI services be included in your business processes moving forward, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to do a more personalized demo. So that is either when the project is created or updating the project, etc. But that is one thing I want to touch on right after we create that project. So now this dashboard. This is where we're going to see things like our list view web parts, our tiles and dials, which is another piece of Nitro Studio, as well as our reports, right? So if I toggle back and forth, we've got reports in here, we got some list view web parts, and we have our tiles and dials web part. And basically what it does is it gives us an easy way to view SharePoint information, right? So too many times I've spoken to clients or potential customers about the way SharePoint looks. It gets a bad rep, right? Those used to working with it for previous iterations or older versions, it's very bland, right? So I like this because it gives us the ability to make it, prettier, I guess, for lack of a better term. Throw some branding on it, being able to present SharePoint lists in a more easily consumable way, easy on the eye. So these list views are exactly that. These are SharePoint list views, but they're displayed as numbers on, in a tile, in a tiled manner. So if you want to drill down and see your projects, you click on this button, it takes you directly to that particular list view, that projects view, right? So you can see why I think it's cool, why I'm fond of it. This is what, if you want to see all of your projects, this is a very functional view, right? That kind of list view, that Excel view. This is obviously possible at any time. You can come down and see it all of your projects, but I like this better because it's cleaner. It's easier to work from. The same for your list view web parts. I guess it's more of like a tab web part, but again, instead of having, going back to when I first started, I'd have, kind of like I have now, I'd have 7 tabs open at the top with each list that I worked out of, and whether it was in CRM or the IT space, whatever it is, right? But you have all of your different lists open in SharePoint that you work from, and none of them are connected. A big jump that we've made in this list view is being able to tab through different views, right? So you can see all of your tasks, you can see pending tasks, you can see overdue tasks, right? All from just a click. So instead of having to filter by view or have multiple things open, it just gives you the ability to do so right from one web part, right from one screen. So again, making it easily consumable on the eye. And you can even do things like build in a Gantt chart directly to this list view. So this chart is built directly onto this this task list, and we can see exactly how this lays out. So task 1 is, what's that, due on Monday the 30th. So it gives you that full Gantt chart view that you're used to seeing with project management applications, right from this main landing page. And again, this is going to be equal to, so we could do it by week as well, day, week, or month. And this is going to go back to that role-based permissions I was talking about earlier. So you're only going to see things equal to you, right? So that's how it comes out of the box. I'm going to see my task, my overdue task, my pending task, whatever it may be, in the Gantt chart specific to me. But we can also, if it's, if you're working a particular project, this is what you're going to see. But if you're more at the management level and you want to see a roll up of all projects or of all tasks, that's also possible. Just gives you an idea of what it could look like. Now, reports. So you can see we built in some reports here, project by user, project by status, milestones by user, pending tasks, active milestones, right? You can also do things with some budgeting reports as well. The cool thing about reports, again, it's living in this Nitro Studio space. So if you want to configure a report, you absolutely have the ability to do so. You come in here and change any report that you'd like. And is the easiest way to say this is as long as the information lives within the, as long as it lives within the application, you can report on it, right? So we typically do it on an X and Y axis, but you can see how granular it can get, right? You can do an automatic refresh, so so the report loads on its own. You can have multiple lists roll up into a single report. You can pull in information from different site collections. So you can have, now you're not stuck into the site, you're not stuck in the site collection where the project manager application is living to pull reports off of. You can pull information into this report from other areas, and then you can choose, how you want your report to look, right? The actual, I guess I geek out more on like what, the back end stuff, pulling information into multiple lists, loading automatically. I forget about, oh, hey, you can make it look pretty too, right? You can make it look cool. You also have that ability. So this is what's living on this project's dashboard, and you have the ability, like I said, to create your own projects. What's also cool about this, this piece is that we leverage our workflow tools. We can leverage our workflow tool to send these reports at a date and time cadence of your choosing. So one of the triggers in our workflow tool is like scheduled a report. So if you want someone to see the active project by user every Monday morning at 9 a.m. and to be in their email as a PDF or as a PNG, you have that ability to do so. So I think the term that I hear kicked around a lot is like eliminate user error. Here's what it looks like in a PDF. I don't know if that's the right term, but it's a set and forget. Right, as opposed to having to remind yourself to send this set of reports at this date and time, it automatically generated, right? You don't have, takes the worry out of it. You can just fire off these reports. Okay, so we talked about project creation. We talked about our dashboard. Talked about the admin side. Working a project or task or a milestone, if I open one of these up, it's just working out of that list form, right? So you can come in here and edit the item as as you're working on it, right? So if it's what the task status is, who it's assigned to, or what the description is, when it was due, the projected hours, the pending hours. So you can come in and update these milestones as you work, right? Just to be able to move the items through, through like completing and marking off tasks and projects. And what's nice about that is, again, if we go back to our workflow tool, we can notify maybe the project manager that, hey, a task has been completed or a milestone's been completed. And not only can you notify that person when the task or milestone is completed, but you can also notify the task or milestone owner that one of those items is coming due. So if you want to notify someone to say, hey, look, these set of tasks is due at X and X time, and send that to them via email, you have that ability to do so. I like to say you can ping them as aggressively as you choose. I think it's as quick as every 15 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but you send these off again at a date and time cadence of your choosing on how frequently you want to ping that person and let them know tasks or milestones or projects are coming due. Okay, so I promised I'd keep this right to a half an hour. So we got about 5 minutes left, and I do want to touch on one more aspect of the Nitro Studio. So anytime you're in SharePoint or working in 365, forms always get they always get the most publicity, right? They're always kind of the breadwinner, because anytime you're in a SharePoint list item, you're dealing directly with a SharePoint form. Okay? So anytime you're interacting with something, it's through a form. So just briefly, I want to show you how easy it is to configure one of these forms. It kind of gives you a peek under the covers of what you can do with Nitro Studio as well. If you're interested in having Nitro as a standalone or within the application, it can kind of highlight that. So in my mind, I see our our form designer is kind of having 3 different layers. So UI, UX, how it looks and feels, SharePoint standards, permissions, column validations, etc. And then the more advanced side, the development side. So from a UI perspective, you can always change the tab, the color of the form, right? If you have a certain color scheme in your organization, come on, you can update how the form looks and feels. We have some generic themes for our forms that come into play with the tool, but under our global settings, you can also create your own theme. So it can be as granular as font family, cell padding. You can make tabs and sections different colors. You can get pretty darn close to your exact branding layout on not only the site itself, but also the forms. And once you create a form theme, they can then be applied to all the forms within the application in Nitro Studio. Now, I kind of hopping a little bit, but you also have the ability to inject custom CSS a little bit here as well. So if you have your own CSS file that you want to apply to the forms, by all means. Now, form design under form controls. Basically, we're in a SharePoint list. So this is a little different than, say, Microsoft Forms or maybe Power Automate, where a flow or a form is tied to a user. This is again role based, and these are tied directly to list. So when we're looking at this particular form, this is for our projects form that we originally spun up. And as long as you have the proper permissions, you can come in and change the form for that list. So when I drag and drop tabs, it's going to be displayed on the front end. And now under form controls, I have all of the columns available in that list, right? So milestones and tasks like we've already talked about, and it's very much a drag and drop, right? So now if you want to, for those familiar with SharePoint, creating columns can be done on the list at any time. What we've done is instead of having to go out and go back to the list and create a column on that list, you can actually do so directly from the form design tool. You can create columns from here and have them be automatically added to the site or to the form designer without having to leave it. You can also edit columns from the design tool as well. So you can kind of see a common theme here, right? The tying multiple lists together, this feature set in the forms is we want to try to give you as much, give you the ability to do as much as you can from one screen, right? I hate jumping around from screen to screen, and I think this just highlights how easy we can make it in the Nitro toolset vis-a-vis our applications. Now you can do things like configure unique column event actions, form event changes. So if you want to run particular scripts or update form controls or fetch items, you absolutely have the ability to do so. You can configure unique permissions on tabs, on columns. If column A equals this, show column B and C, only show tab 3 to this particular group of people. And then you can also go down, like I said, the developer side of calling out to external data columns, leveraging our REST API sources or REST API options in our workflow tool, all the way down to injecting script in the form itself or maybe in some script action buttons. But the idea is that, okay, look, here's a really cool functional tool that works out of the box that sits entirely within inside of your environment. Now, what you also get included is this very powerful tool set called Nitro Studio. And what I'm trying to highlight is that we give you this tool set included, and as long as if you want to go down the training or work with us, you have the ability to make this tool your own, right? So that's really the mindset, kind of bring it full circle. Hey, you're leveraging Office 365, you're leveraging SharePoint on-premise. We have this tool ready to go from day one, how it comes out of the box. And then you have that Nitro Studio sitting in the back end for you to configure the tool at any time that you want. Again, it doesn't have to be done from day one. SharePoint can be configured at any time. And how the project application comes on day one doesn't mean it has to be that way week 6 or day 6, week 6, 6 months, 6 years down the road, right? You can always configure the tool, make it grow, or it can grow as you grow in the project management space. Look at that. I made it right at 11:30. Had to cram it in there a little bit, but I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. This is just a very high level overview, right? We can't go into too many particulars in a webinar, but if you are interested in the more nitty gritty details of the application, I'd suggest reaching out to us. Myself, yep, there I am, goofy guy in the picture right there. My hair is a lot longer now, being in quarantine, but that's my email address. You can feel free to reach out to me directly. Be happy to set up a time to chat with you. Sales@crowcanyon.com is another option. We all monitor that inbox. But like I said, if you're interested in a more personalized demo, please do reach out. Be happy to do that with you. And then if any of the forms pieces or the workflow tools sparked your interest about Nitro Studio, we have a webinar next week talking about InfoPath and Nitro and how to convert your InfoPath forms to Nitro forms. But if you're just using Office 365 and you're curious about a forms and a workflow tool in the 365 space, I heavily suggest attending that as well. There's going to be a lot of good information in that webinar. So thanks everyone for joining. James, any questions that I missed that you want to cover before we sign off?
No, I think we're good. So it's quite on the question front. So I think we're good for now.
Perfect. Hey, well, thanks for joining everyone. And James, thanks for sitting in on the call. And we hope to hear from you guys soon, and we'll catch you next time.